I must say, it's so pretentious.
Go!
Well, my first job in the sixth form was embroidering roses for wedding dresses. The dresses were sold in Harrods for thousands of pounds, but I went home at 9 o'clock at night with £20 in my pocket. But it was very intense, and I also, as hard work as it was, I did enjoy doing it. I really do have a respect for very traditional crafts and traditional artwork, and I do believe that you should try as far as possible to keep these things alive. And I used to do embroidery for fun. So I've done a Diana Ross card for a gay friend, and she had all the hair and everything, but that was just pleasure. During this time I'm doing those things in my spare time, I had rather low paid shop work jobs, so I thought I would phone the Bolton College and ask if there was any jobs. The lady who answered the phone said, "Oh, do you do embroidery?" So I just said yes. So in the summer holiday before my job began, I got an encyclopedia of stitches and did every single stitch from the A to Z of embroidery. I quite enjoyed it, and you began to gain an understanding that there's genre of stitching. You'd use different threads and different fabrics to do different embroidery. The major difficulty would be the vast consumption of time, and it requires a lot of patience. However, you could view that in another way, that if you do have time, it's a beautiful, relaxing thing to do. You can really become absorbed in that because you see the work building up very slowly, but that's very absorbing. Because it's such an ancient craft, in the Middle Ages, England ruled the world for embroidery, and it would be such a tragic loss to let it go. And it's quite fascinating because not a lot of textiles survive, particularly in this country, due to the weather, through history, the pillaging of gold off fabrics and things like that. So the things that do remain are tremendously important. You still want the hand-done product. Obviously, a machine can produce a piece of work, but it's never going to be quite the same. It doesn't have the personality in it, and it maybe also doesn't have the flaws in it. The Japanese will say, if you produce a carving and it's got a flaw in it, that shows you're human. But it's not being a Luddite and saying, I hate technology. Technology should exist also, so you could make use of both things. For example, I'm always using the internet, being able to scroll through imagery to pick things that I want to do in my work. But I've become quite interested. A woman I've been speaking to is talking about subversive stitch and the role of women in stitching. I'd be quite interested, even if it was just a simple thing, to have some kind of allegory or maybe political statement like Brexit embroidery, not Brexit embroidery, but say to put an element of beyond the aesthetic but keeping it attractive, but putting ideas into it as well. First and foremost, I am a painter, I'm a fine art painter. The embroidery is very tight and meticulous and has rules, and the painting is the other extreme. Within the painting becomes a liberation, and then the embroidery becomes a tightening up again. It makes you think before you begin. Without a creative activity, I don't think I would function. Sometimes it makes me happy, sometimes it makes me incredibly depressed, and I find it a burden. Sometimes I just wish I could go home and put the telly on and be like, normal people and not have the burden of things going through my mind. But other times I'm very glad that I have a process that I'll carry with me, whether I've got a paintbrush in my hand or not.